What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks and the Hammer podcast. I'm your host, Grayson Jenkins, and as you can see, it's just me again today. Hammer is not with us again tonight. And in today's episode, I kind of wanted to, as we get closer to the season, give some predictions. And in today's episode, we're going to be going over my top rookies for this upcoming season that are set up for success in both fantasy and just playing in general. Before I get into this episode, a quick note. We are doing an ESPN group pick'em league that we'd love for you guys to join. The winner will be getting an NFL jersey. We did a fantasy league last year. We're doing a pick'em league this year to get more of you guys involved. Just click the link down below. It'll be into our Discord server, and then you can join the pick'em league from there. We're excited to have you guys in it. Let's get right into the episode. So starting off, I want to get right into quarterbacks. And for this season, the rookie quarterback class was solid, right? We had about 5-6 quarterbacks in the first round. And there was a lot of talk about which ones will be successful, which ones won't. Obviously, Michael Penix, not set up for success. He's set up for resting and training behind Kirk Cousins to become that quarterback one for the Falcons. So he's obviously not going to be in this list. But I have 3 quarterbacks from the first round that I think are most set up for success. And obviously, Caleb Williams is going to be in there. He's the obvious quarterback one for this. So starting off just with Caleb Williams, I will say this. He had flash plays in the preseason, but he was 50% completion rate against starters, against teams in the preseason games that he played, 10 for 20, 170 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. He had those few plays most recently in the most recent game where he looked he looked amazing. He had a couple plays where he just had to run around, avoid a couple tackles, make a throw down the sideline to Odunze. We'll talk about in a little bit. But I think that Caleb Williams, he has a stacked offense around him, right? He has DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, like I just mentioned, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, and DeAndre Swift. On top of that, this is the best situation for a rookie quarterback I've seen, I would say, in a long time. Because obviously Joe Burrow had a good situation around him, right? But he didn't have that O-line. He had the receivers, but not the O-line. Caleb Williams has a good receiver room, a good tight end, good running backs, and a solid O-line. And not to mention, he has a good defense as well. So he has the most set up team for success. My second quarterback is going to be Jayden Daniels. And obviously, everyone's going to say, oh, Jayden Daniels is another obvious pick. Yes, but he is in a spot where he can succeed even more than Caleb Williams this season, statistically. I don't know about record-wise, but statistically, I think Jayden Daniels could have a very big season, and here's why. You saw it in his first preseason game where he had the one throw. His first completion in the NFL in the preseason was, I think it was a 40-yard pass down the sideline to De'Ami Brown, and it was a strike. It was a perfect pass over the shoulder, over the defender, and it was amazing. And in the second game, he came out and he went 10 for 12. I don't remember the yardage, but he was 10 for 12, looked solid again. And he looked, one of the keys that I think is the most important thing for a quarterback is to be able to throw to your number one target and hit him in where he can make plays. And Terry McLaurin and Jayden Daniels seem to have that connection. And I love that. That's one of the things I've noted with Jayden Daniels is his connection with Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin's set up for a big fantasy season, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about rookies. Jayden Daniels needs to protect his body. That's the one thing that I have to note. Anthony Richardson last season exploded. He exploded at the beginning of the season, didn't protect his body, and found himself out for the rest of the season pretty quickly. I think if Jayden Daniels is able to protect his body, right? If he's running all over the field like he can with the RPOs that the Commanders are going to use with Cliff Kingsbury, they're going to use RPOs a lot. And so when Jayden Daniels keeps it and he's running or he runs and tucks on a pass play, he needs to learn to slide. He didn't do that well at LSU. It was one of our notes in our scouting videos way back when before the draft. If Jayden Daniels is able to slide or get out of bounds, just get out of harm's way when he runs the ball, he will have a good season. And I think the offense around him is going to be solid more than people expect. Obviously, right now, they just traded away to Jahan Dotson yesterday. You guys are seeing it on Friday. I'm recording this Thursday. Technically today, he was traded. But I think Brandon Ayuk could be on the way. And even if they don't get Ayuk, there's a second guy that I think can be very good for them that I'm going to be talking about in a little bit later in this episode. Third, Third quarterback is going to be Bo Nix. This is my third and final quarterback. The other ones, obviously, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May. I don't think they're set up for instant success. I think they're going to take a year, maybe two, to become successful in the NFL. Bo Nix, in his preseason, went 23 for 30, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's a solid slate in 2 games so far. Sean Payton, obviously, is scheming this offense for him. And that's one thing I noted about Bo Nix. Hammer and I noted about Bo Nix going into the draft. Sean Payton, whoever he was drafting, he's scheming this offense to that quarterback. And that's a great thing for Bo Nix going into the season. This offense schemed for him. He has a solid receiver group, right? Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, as Josh Reynolds is like the third string, Marvin Mims Jr. It's a solid receiver room. Nothing great, but Cortland Sutton, you throw him the ball, he's going to catch it. He's going to come down with the ball. I would say about 90% of the time, when you throw him a contested ball, you could trust Cortland Sutton to make that catch. He had a few absolutely insane catches last season that all of you guys can definitely remember if you watch NFL, of course. If you watch other teams, if you're not watching other teams, perfectly respectable as well. Anyways, Bo Nix, one play I want to note is in the Packers preseason game, he's rolling out to the right. The players, his receivers are all, it's like a flood concept. So everyone's going out to the right at different depths. He finds, I believe it was a tight end coming out late, or is this tight end or the slot receiver coming out late and behind a couple other receivers. He wasn't looking at Bo Nix, and Bo Nix has pressure coming into his face, rolling out right, and he waits just a second long enough for that receiver to kind of turn, and he finds it perfectly for the touchdown. And it goes to show that Bo Nix has a good head on his shoulders. He's able to avoid or to engage in the play with pressure in his face. He doesn't lose focus. And that's one thing I love about Bo Nix. And I think he's set up for success. Not going to be a playoff team, right? This is the AFC that we're talking about, a very, very strong competitive conference. He's not set up for playoff success, but he's set up for success as a fantasy quarterback, as well as just as a rookie, just to succeed, to show that he is the franchise quarterback for the Broncos and move on in the future. Now, I will say you're not taking Bo Nix in the early rounds. You were taking him in the last round or the second to last round, or even in a free agency after he has a few good games. But I think he could have a good fantasy season. Now, a quick note I want to make. Obviously, I'm talking quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. That's fantasy. The running back rookie class does not have a single running back that is ready for success right away in this season. They don't. Jonathan Brooks injured. We're not sure when he's going to start. We're not sure when he's going to get ready to go for the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard is going to take over that role for at least the start of the season. Trey Benson and Marshawn Lloyd, they are going to be great. They're going to be great running backs in this league. I think Marshawn Lloyd, as long as he stays healthy, of course, he's going to be solid. And Trey Benson in the Arizona Cardinals offense, after James Conner leaves, he's going to be a dog. But both of those guys, they're not instant successes this season. So I'm not talking about them. So for running back, there is not a single person in this rookie class that I think is going to be fantasy great or instantly statistically great this season, just because of their scenarios and situations that they were placed in the draft. Now, as we all know, the receiver class was very, very loaded. And I think when we think back to it, our receiver video even, we were debating a lot of guys. It was tough fitting this list in because there's so much talent across that group and different skills, different sizes, everything. But when it comes to this receiver class, there's an obvious number one who is going to be successful, the most successful receiver in this class, and might be one of the top 10 most successful fantasy receivers in the league. And that's Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, he's going into the Arizona Cardinals offense with Trey McBride, who does get a lot of targets by Kyler. But I think with Marvin Harrison Jr., right, he is the bona fide receiver one, best receiver prospect we've had in a long time. Probably a few years. And I think when you look at him, he's going to come in. We haven't seen him in the preseason games, things like that. But he's the receiver one. He's going to get targets. He's able to get off of press coverage. He's able to find zones where they're open and find holes in the zones. Sorry about that. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be successful. I can't really say too much because he's not been doing anything in the preseason. But I will say as a fact, everyone knows Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be successful. Now, my second receiver, and this is in no order following Marvin Harrison Jr. My second receiver I want to talk about is Odunze. I think he could be receiver 2 above Keenan Allen for the season. Obviously, Keenan Allen is there as a veteran mentor for these receivers, DJ Moore and Odunze. He's there as a mentor for these guys. But we've seen in the preseason games, he looks a little bit slower. Seems like he lost a little bit of a step, but I still think he's going to be a good possession catch guy for the Bears. I think Odunze is going to form a great connection with Caleb Williams, coming in as the same draft class. And you saw it even at the draft. Like when they were both drafted, they formed a connection right then and there on draft night. And that was awesome to see. But I think they're going to be a successful duo for years to come. And I think Odunze is going to be a red zone / contested catch menace this season. I think he will. And I think we saw it on the 40-yard catch he had in this most recent preseason game where Caleb Williams rolled out left, threw it over his shoulder, and dropped it right in the breadbasket for Odunze. It was a great catch, great play. I think Odunze is going to be doing that all season long. Next, Keon Coleman for the Bills. I think Keon Coleman, obviously, right, there's separation issues. That's what everyone's going to talk about was his 40-yard dash time and separation issues during training camp and preseason games. But when you hear Joe Brady as well as Josh Allen talk, they're all extremely confident in his skills as a contested catch maker, as well as a playmaker and just a gamer that is going to excel and step up in big moments. And I think that's something that you can't talk highly enough about. When Josh Allen's your quarterback, he's going to put the ball in places where only you can catch it. And that's going to give Keon Coleman a great chance to be a huge fantasy weapon this season. Obviously, they lost Stephon Diggs. Obviously, now they don't have the best receiver group around him. Khalil Shakir is going to be solid, I believe. I genuinely do believe that. And Dalton Kincaid as well. Great pass catcher for them. Dawson Knox even. I think they're going to have success. But Keon Coleman has a chance to be that Stephon Diggs type receiver this season for the Bills. And I think everything that they've talked about, Joe Brady, Josh Allen, in interviews and things like that have expressed that beliefs as well. I will note there is a drop that is being discussed with not George Pickens, Keon Coleman in the Steelers game. Gosh, George Pickens is on my mind. Jeez. Keon Coleman, where he reached out for the ball in between two defenders. If he really kind of wanted to reach out and catch the ball, he could have. He didn't. I think he saw the safety coming over to it was a hospital pass. Good pass because it's a touchdown. You catch it, it's a touchdown. You don't care really in that situation. But preseason, it's not really worth reaching out and getting killed to catch that ball. So I think that was kind of a business decision over a drop for Keon Coleman in that game. Next, Malachi Corley, a guy that I think can have huge success in this Jets offense that a lot of people are sleeping on. I talked about him in our receiver episode way back when as well. He was one of my favorite receivers. The Yak God is what he was called in college, and I think he's going to continue in the NFL. He's a great adjustment receiver. If Aaron Rodgers, one of the best placement throwers in the league, if he makes a bad throw, Malachi Corley is going to adjust to it and make the catch. You've seen it in training camp. We've seen it through clips in training camp. And I think he's going to see it continue into the season. I think he's going to become the Debo of this Jets offense. And I believe he's going to take over or overstep Mike Williams to become the receiver 2 by the end of the year for the Jets. Next, the receiver that a lot of Giants fans are probably screaming at if they're watching this right now, Malik Nabers. Obviously, he's going to be a top fantasy target for this rookie receiver class. But here's the thing. You got Daniel Jones as your quarterback, and that hinders your performance. It does. I mean, yes, you have a guy that's going to target you 24/7 during the game, but he's going to be throwing picks half the time, incomplete passes that are way off target. The other half, obviously hyperbole, guys. But you're going to be missing out on key targets in these games because Daniel Jones is your quarterback. Malik Nabers also has a tendency, and we saw it during the preseason game, to try to make more spectacular catches than he has to. Went up for one hand when he could have gone up for two and made the catch and dropped the ball. But he has yard after catch ability. And he's a damn good route runner. I love Malik Nabers. I was tempted to say he was better than MHJ this season, but I was just afraid I was going to get lynched by the Marvin Harrison Jr. mob during this offseason. So I didn't say that. But I think Malik Nabers is going to be solid fantasy receiver this season. My final receiver I want to talk about is Xavier Worthy. Everyone knows, obviously, when you put an explosive and damn fast receiver in this Patrick Mahomes Chiefs offense with Andy Reid as the play caller, man, they're going to be giving him a lot of deep balls, a lot of motion plays where they're going to get him scheming to be running on the go and then just taking off as soon as the play snapped. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be a very explosive fantasy receiver. I will say I think he might end up being a boomer bust player week by week. Maybe some weeks he's going to have a huge game, 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. Then next week, 2 catches, 40 yards, not anything crazy. But I think that's because you also have to think Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce as well. Like Travis Kelce is going to steal some reps, steal some targets. But I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be finding this guy consistently on deep balls during the season. So obviously he's going to be a fantasy success. Now, breaking away from receivers to tight ends, I have 2 tight ends from this rookie class that I think are going to be successful. And this is a tough one because outside of Brock Bowers, this tight end class for this season was rough. When Hammer and I are doing our preseason draft or our offseason draft reviews, all these tight ends are kind of, yeah, they'll be solid, but they're not going to be anything crazy. But during this offseason and this preseason training camp, I've seen a second guy that I really like, and I think he's going to excel. And I'll talk about him right after I talk about Brock Bowers. Obviously, Brock Bowers is the tight end 1 for rookies this season. And he's a tight end 1 in an offense that could be successful. And I want to talk about this for a second. The new Raiders offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, coming over from the Bears. Under the Bears, or when he was the offensive coordinator for the Bears, Luke Getsy's tight ends, i.e. Cole Kmet, obviously, had 90 targets and 69 targets in 2023 and 2022, respectively. 90 targets and 69. Obviously, Cole Kmet is a very good tight end. But in this Luke Getsy offense, coming over to the Raiders, I think Gardner Minshew as a starting tight end is going to rely on him. Obviously, you have Devontae Adams. He's going to be that first target. He's going to be that first guy that Gardner Minshew looks at every single snap. But then you look at Brock Bowers. If he catches the ball, he can make anything happen. We've seen it in Georgia over and over and over again. He makes a one-handed catch, then breaks 2 tackles, and then frees up for a touchdown. And I think that's what he can do for the Raiders as well. And obviously, it's not anything crazy to talk about when we're talking about the Raiders and Brock Bowers. Everyone knew Brock Bowers was coming in. He was going to be the successful tight end immediately. So that's not exciting. So I'm going to move on from Brock Bowers and talk about a guy that I think can be that sleeper tight end that we see just explode during the season, similar to Laporta last season for the Lions. Obviously, Laporta was a top tight end, and he was expected to succeed, but not at the level that he did last season. He exploded. I mean, no one expected him to be a top 5 tight end in fantasy or in the league in general, but he was. Ben Sinott has the possibility, in my opinion, to be a top 10 tight end in fantasy. And here's why. The new Commanders offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, his top tight ends throughout his time as an offensive or a play caller on the Cardinals had 69, 81, 45, and 24. Obviously, 24 targets was the first season, 45 second season, 81, and then 69. And that's when Zach Ertz came to town in Arizona. The targets for the tight end started going up a little bit. But in this Commanders offense, that now just traded Jahan Dotson this morning, yesterday for you guys. Jahan Dotson getting traded. Now you just kind of have Terry McLaurin over there. Yes, De'Ami Brown's there, but that's not someone that you want to target constantly. And Ben Sinott can fill that void and become that target. They have Zach Ertz. But hear me out with this one. Zach Ertz, wherever he is, that second tight end seems to explode. Zach Ertz mentored Dallas Goedert for the Eagles, right? And we see Dallas Goedert exploding now for the last few seasons. Then Trey McBride had an explosive season last season after Zach Ertz departed. And now Zach Ertz is here, and he's here to stay in the Commanders this season, but he's a lot older. And we have to take that into account. He's an older guy. I believe he's going to be just mainly a mentor for Ben Sinott. And we've seen it in training camp. He looks explosive. He looks like he can break tackles. In the preseason game against the Jets, the guy made a catch and had an angry run. It was on angry runs. That's why I'm bringing that up. But he trucked the first guy, broke a couple other tackles, and kept moving his feet for extra yards. And if he can keep doing that, he's going to get a lot more targets in this Commanders offense. And for that reason, I think he will be the second most successful rookie tight end. And I think it's instant success worthy. Now I want to talk about another one, just as an honorable mention, is going to be Theo Johnson. I'm not saying he's going to be successful. I think he has a chance to be a great rookie this season. But with Daniel Jones as well, you can't really trust it. Obviously, Darren Waller just retired. And Theo Johnson, who's the possibility to be a pass catching beast. I talked about that in our tight end episode way back before the draft. I think he has a chance to be absolutely amazing. But Daniel Jones just doesn't excite me for anyone. So I'm not going to be gushing over any fantasy prospect with Daniel Jones as a quarterback. He's the joke of the league as a quarterback. We saw Cameron Jordan come in. Cameron Jordan was ranking quarterbacks, and then he had two rookies at the bottom, Jayden Daniels and JJ McCarthy. And Daniel Jones pops up and he says, oh, nah, he's got to be way below everyone. Rookies. He has him way below rookies. The disrespect was unreal. And you saw it. Daniel Jones threw 2 picks in the preseason game. And one was just the dumbest play ever. So it's not like I'm making this up. It's just hard for me to be excited over anyone related or closely linked with Daniel Jones in the offense. Anyways, that's going to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I want to hear what you guys think about these rookies. And I know the receiver classes, obviously, there's a lot longer of a list than quarterbacks and tight ends. Running backs had 0. Obviously, I think that comes with just kind of the scenarios that everyone landed in. Obviously, Blake Corum, I loved coming into the season, into the draft. But he was drafted to the Rams. Kyren Williams is there. Yes, there could be a little bit of a monster, a two-headed monster. But I don't think Blake Corum's going to have success, fantasy-wise, like major success worth noting. And I think just all the Jonathan Brooks got put in a tough spot with his injury. He's going to succeed in the next couple seasons. And I just think these receivers, that's where you truly want to look in fantasy within the mid rounds for some of these guys. First couple of rounds, obviously, for MHJ, Malik Nabers. Mid rounds for guys like Rome. Malachi Corley is going to be late in your draft. But I think these tight ends, you get Ben Sinott late in your draft, even as a free agent, because he's going to be undrafted in a good few drafts. You get him undrafted as a free agent after he has a good game, you're set. Brock Bowers, I think, will be drafted in a lot of drafts. I think that's mid-rounds. He's a rookie, but everyone always overvalues like Brock Bowers, guys like that, and I think they draft him way early without even knowing what he's going to bring, and I hate that. That's one of the things I hate, is drafting rookies way ahead of veterans who you know are set up for success and banking on potential and things like that. But this video is just kind of to talk a little bit about what I expect for these guys, and I'm excited for you guys to get to hear this. And I want to hear your feedback as well. I love hearing your guys' feedback. That's something I love for this podcast. You know, Hammer can't be with me today, but I'm doing this anyways because I like hearing from you guys. I like talking to you guys, giving you my thoughts. So comment down below, even if you disagree, even if you hate my guts. I love hearing that. And I want to just have a civil conversation, talk to you guys. And as usual, quick note, we are doing a Discord server. We have a Discord server, and we also have an NFL Pick'em that we would love for everyone to join. I'll link that down below. And remember to follow us on Jenks at Jenks Hammer Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And remember to check in all of our episodes weekly at Jenks and the Hammer on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys next week.